Take a look at this. Newly minted Twitter CEO Elon Musk making a splash as he arrived at Twitter headquarters this week carrying a kitchen sink, a reference to the term kitchen sinking, which in the business world means radical changes are coming. Musk also changed his Twitter bio to read Chief Twit. But a lot of folks at the social media network weren't happy about the change in leadership. An open letter penned by Twitter employees accused Musk of trying to intimidate workers with his reported plan to lay off 75% of the workforce and demanding he drop any threat of layoffs. And yes, I said demanding, that's their word, not ours. Do these so-called demands speak to a larger issue at play in the American workforce, and what does it portend for the future as new generations enter the workforce? To discuss, let's bring in Dr. Joshua Estrin. He's a psychologist and the author of the audiobook Shut Up and Listen to Yourself 2.0. Dr. Estrin, thank you so much for being here. So the employees at Twitter, they also demanded that Musk allow them to continue working from home, a policy put in place during the COVID pandemic. Who do these people think that they are? I mean, he just spent $40 billion to buy the company, and they believe that they should be telling him and trying to influence how to operate the company. What did you think of this?
Interesting. I mean, it's hard to really take anyone seriously that calls themselves Chief Twit, but at the same time, words are powerful. And I think employees demanding anything. Capitalism was built on takeovers and acquisitions, and certainly changes take place. At the same time, it's understandable that people would feel anxious, but usually making demands is not the best way to get what you want. But you're 100% right. It speaks to a larger problem of quiet firing, quiet quitting, and this sense of entitlement that the workforce seems to have.
Yeah, you know, when I was in the private sector and I was in a younger worker, even when I was in government, I did my job. I didn't make it a practice to complain a lot. I didn't think I could run or should run the place. Why are we seeing that, well, what some might say, hubris, even from low-level employees about corporate operations, public positions, et cetera? Do you think that it's related to the fact that sort of Gen Z and millennials came of age when they were made to feel empowered by digital media, and that's kind of translating to the workforce in some way?
I think it is. I mean, I'm Gen X. I'm 53 years old. I'm a dad. I'm a grandpa of 3. And sometimes I don't quite understand this sense of entitlement that we talk about from younger generations. But you make an excellent point. This specifically is a social media platform, and we know that social media has been used historically to amplify opinions and thoughts that would never be amplified to 300 million people. And so I think that, this is a culture that feels as if they have a say in everything that's happening. Right. And one of the great things about this country is we have the right to peacefully protest. I would be more concerned if that right was taken away. Yet at the same time, there needs to be a balance. And, I'm more concerned about the people who are sitting in their offices quietly collecting a paycheck and not doing their job.
Yeah, Doctor, let's talk about that. Quiet quitting is a really disturbing thing to me. When I do something, I do it all the way. It seems like you are kind of the same way. What do you think is driving this trend? And what's your advice for folks who think that there's really no problem with sort of doing the absolute bare minimum in this way, but still collecting a full paycheck?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think it's the majority. I think there are
I agree
a group of people, a minority of people who feel that for whatever reason, showing up to work is enough. And I think that responsibility is on both sides. If someone's not doing their job, then you can't quietly fire them and just ignore them or make their job a living hell, so to speak. People need to step up to the plate and do their job and do it well. I happen to be a type A personality. I admit it 100%. And also, good enough really isn't enough anymore. If you want to excel in a world that is changing so quickly, especially across the digital continuum, you need to bring your A game. There is no room for quiet quitting.
Why do you believe that particularly, sort of the younger generation just doesn't seem to have that same motivation or to really appreciate exactly what you just said, that it is a more competitive world out there, and you have to bring your A game, and you have to really, put yourself into what you're doing. Why don't you think that a lot of folks kind of feel that way?
I think we're in a period of transition. One thing that we can learn from the younger generation that I admit I never learned was work-life balance. I'm either in my work or I'm in my life. Having said that, I think that they're trying to find this middle ground. And in the process, I think they need to be reminded respectfully that the reason they call it work is, well, there's a reason they call it work, right?
Absolutely. All right, we're going to leave it there, but thank you for your insights on this. It is a time of transition. It is a very interesting time in the workforce with this new generation coming up and with our new digital society. Dr. Joshua Estrin, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They
Let me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.